Hey guys, God morning. Thank you for joining me for some real talk from the heart this morning. Our 7 chapters are Judges 21, the first, or the 4 chapters of Ruth, I should say, and then 1 Samuel 1 and 2. Those are our 7 chapters this morning. Our scripture focus this morning is 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10. And this morning I want to talk to you about dealing with bitterness. And it's right here in the life of Hannah. And so let me read the text. It says, "And she was in bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord." It says, "and wept in anguish." Here's Hannah, right? She has been wanting a child and has been going without a child, and yet, right, her counterpart has been provoking her, kind of rubbing it in and making life miserable for her, even while she would go to the temple to worship. She was just, being harassed. And here she is. She finds herself in bitterness of soul. But what does she do? What does she do? The text tells us that she prayed to the Lord. I'm so glad that the verse doesn't stop with, "and she was in bitterness of soul." It says she was in bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord, right? And wept in anguish. Beloved, you and I know that in life there are many things that can leave us, right, with a bitter soul. Many things can happen to us that will cause us to become bitter. The loss of a loved one can make us bitter. I remember 2009 when my dad died of cancer. I went through a season of bitterness because, my dad was my hero. He had 3 foster daughters that he adopted, that he was taking care of, and just retired from the school district and worked like 30 years and put in his time, and only been retired for about 3 years, and now he's going home to be with the Lord, which is great news. But at the same time, I was very bitter because I didn't think it was I didn't think it was right. A good man, right, serving God, got responsibilities. It left me bitter, but I prayed through it. Betrayal, right? Betrayal can leave us bitter of soul. When those that we trust, right, those that we love, do something to us or to our loved ones, right, that bring great pain, and man, that'll make you bitter of soul. Abandonment, that sense of just feeling abandoned, it can leave you bitter of soul. I'm a foster parent. My wife and I are foster parents, and so we get kids that come into our homes either on respite or coming to stay with us, and that's something that they deal with. Foster children, there's that sense of that feeling of abandonment that, their parents chose dope over their kids, right? They chose to live for themselves rather than living for their kids. And so a lot of these kids that come to our homes, man, they struggle with bitterness. They struggle with bitterness because of that sense of abandonment. And then there's just the, unfairness of life, man. Life itself is unfair, and nobody said it was fair, right? And so there's these unfair situations that come to us in life that, man, if we're not careful, they'll make us bitter, man, and we'll be living with a bitter soul. And then let's just be honest too, man. Another thing that makes us bitter of soul is just trying to get through to stubborn people, right? Trying to get through to stubborn hearts, man. It'll make you bitter, right? It'll make you bitter. But what I want to talk about briefly here in just the next minute is when dealing with bitterness, cry out to the Lord. Cry out to the Lord. Don't cry around to people, right? You can cry out to the Lord or you can cry around. I want to encourage you, beloved, cry out to the Lord. And the reason why is because, listen, He hears you. Right? He delights in the prayer of the upright. But when you cry around to people, when you take your bitterness to people, what ends up happening is those people become bitter, right? Bitter people create bitter people. Bitter people make bitter people. Listen, cry out to the Lord. Hannah, she cried out to the Lord, and the Lord heard her. right? Let's take our bitterness, right? We're dealing with bitterness, man. Let's take it to the Lord. Let's take it to the Lord. And maybe today you find yourself in a bitter time in your life, and maybe you have found yourself becoming bitter towards somebody. Maybe there's a person in your life, man, that you are just finding yourself very bitter towards. Can I encourage you to pray for them? Instead of praying on them, man, pray for them. Instead of getting a bunch of people around you to hate that person, why don't you start praying for that person, right? Start praying for that person, man, because God's going to do a work in your heart, right, towards that person, right? And so, hey, man, don't forget, man, that bitterness is the only poison that we drink, right? Expecting the other person to die when really we're dying on the inside, man. Bitterness is a slow killer. It's a joy robber, right? And bitterness will cause people to stay away from us, right? And we don't want that, and we don't need that either. So cry out to the Lord. Don't cry around to people. All right, hey, don't forget the Lord loves you. I love you too. Man, I hope you have a great Friday. 1 Corinthians chapter 8 this Sunday, but tonight's going to be a great night at Calvary Chapel Toppenish. We're having our worship night in the park. I hope you can come through. I think it starts at 6 o'clock. And, man, love to have you guys come out. And let's sit at the feet of Jesus and worship him tonight. All right? God bless y'all.